Okay, looking good. So, welcome everyone, and today the main focus on the training webinar, kind of a couple of things, but the main thing is to go through a whole lot of recent test results. And what I think you'll see is that some of the fine-grained detail can have a massive impact on what you do in your SEO campaign, particularly with zero content SEO stuff. So you'll see some things that work extremely well and some things that were actually a complete and utter failure. And I think one of the good things about me sort of being your crash test dummy, for want of a better way of putting it, is that you don't have to waste time on those things that just are a complete fail, and you can just obviously work on the successful things that we test out here. So let's make a start. Here's my big kind of SEO insight that I kind of got. If you want to give it a corny name, it's kind of my SEO insight of the week. And it kind of revolves around this idea. Firstly, I think that kind of all of us in SEO traffic hacks are sort of on an evolutionary journey, hopefully. That's my goal anyway. But that also includes me. So probably even already you've seen since December a lot of my thinking has changed, and a lot of what I do has changed in SEO, and this big insight that I kind of had this week is just a continuing part of that evolution, and hopefully will be really useful for you as well. So here's the thing. For quite a while, I mean, there are a few guys that I know in PPC who are extremely good at what they do. They're very rare, but they're very good at what they do because they have a very cold, analytical, detachment, tracking, analytics, etc. about what they do. And I think on the whole, to make a horrible generalization, we guys in SEO kind of lack that. Our brain is probably on the wrong side. We're probably too right-brained, I guess it is. And I think, a good way to operate in SEO for kind of maximum efficiency is to think of websites actually in the same way that these kind of veteran PPC guys think about individual banner ads or text ads that they do. So they've got a whole bunch of them going, and if one of them or several of them fail, they immediately just use others in their repertoire or develop other kind of properties for traffic generation through PPC, obviously. And what they seem to have is this kind of ruthless efficiency. And I know that this is a tricky thing to do for client sites because they're much more kind of emotionally attached to them. But I think you can have that for traffic feeders, sites that you build, whether they're parasite pages or originally zero content SEO sites that you build. You can still have that kind of ruthless emotional detachment about these sites. And as you'll see in a minute from kind of one of my anecdotes from my own past professional history, I'm certainly guilty of not having this sort of cold detachment about a project that I was involved in as an entrepreneur a while back. I'll get to that though. So basically what I'm talking about is developing a kind of complete lack of emotion or attachment to any single website. And as I say, would a PPC veteran, someone who was successful, knew what they were doing, would they really care if an individual ad failed? Of course not. And for us, and for them as well, and I've harped on about this in previous webinars, the real gold that can just skyrocket your business, to use that overused I am cliche, is finding converting content. Once you find that right recipe that you've just got to send the right traffic to, and it just converts and converts and converts, now you've got something of amazing value. And in a way, it's kind of ironic, but you can actually have great SEO, but if you're not using that to drive traffic to that really high converting content, then a lot of the SEO is kind of wasted, obviously. On my own, in my own tickets portfolio, and I think I've referred to this example before, I've got one page that currently converts at about 25 to 30% of visitors, which is crazy considering that's not an opt-in page or, it's not any kind of free offer. It's something where people have to pay, and in fact someone on that page spent about $1,400 on a single purchase yesterday. So we're obviously replicating that and building more sites like that. And once you do find that converting content, then you just want to scale as much as you can, as quickly as you can, and obviously apply these sort of SEO tactics to it. So hopefully that gives you a little bit more clarity. I think, we're so overloaded with so many new tools coming out, and even SEO is quite a complex kind of field. It can be easy at times to lose sight of what our ultimate goal is here, but once we get that converting content, then obviously we can turn our SEO knowledge into dollars pretty quickly. The thing is, though, that when we look around, excuse me, the SEO forums and so on, it seems like hardly any SEOs actually think or even operate this way. Most of the guys that you see are sort of bogged down in anxiety about certain site rankings or this manual penalty or a slap or a future algorithmic change. And I'm not being critical. I mean, I've totally been there on that situation. But the problem is that mindset is not a productive one, being in that anxious state and always worried about it. And obviously we need to react to changes in our business, but if we have a reasonable sized portfolio of sites to work with, and that's one of the things I'm going to talk more about with zero content SEO today, hopefully you're kind of spreading that risk around, and your recovery process, how you can react is much, much faster, and you're not going to be bogged down in this kind of constant anxiety about Google and what they're doing. I think one of the reasons that a lot of SEOs probably think that way is because they conceive ranking sites as relatively hard, and it could be that they kind of rely on one site for traffic as well. And of course, as we know from the random ranking factor, which we've talked about a lot, you can be pretty vulnerable to changes in that, even for an established site. And even if you actually have a site that's kind of white hat, that's had no SEO done to it, there's nothing to stop a future algorithmic change from affecting the rankings of that site. So even not doing SEO on a site, it could still be problematic in the future in terms of maintaining those rankings. Also, part of this kind of PPC approach, if I can put it like that, to SEO is about fast scaling. And one of the things I've been working a lot on behind the scenes here and haven't talked too much about yet is kind of large-scale private services that I'm sort of developing here in the process of putting together that facilitate fast scaling. And I'll be emailing, excuse me, frog in the throat today, emailing out invitations later in May for people to kind of have a look at that. My established customers, probably pretty much everyone on this call, I imagine, or quite a few people on this call. And what I'm talking about there are PBNs in the networks in like the size of hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of sites, all various IP, just everything on a much, much bigger scale, and potentially going after much tougher keywords. Can't say too much more about that at the moment, but it's definitely coming. Okay, the thing is, though, that's all very well, but that's going to involve some stuff. And what we need to make all of that work, we need systems, we need tools in order to do this kind of rapid response, to scale and to take advantage of new opportunities, recover from slaps and things like that. We've got to have the systems and tools, possibly even the staff, if you're so inclined. Obviously I am, and I'll talk more about that in a minute, but you need those resources in place. So the hard part here is kind of developing the resources for that, and hopefully having some early SEO success with tactics that you're learning here can speed that up or make that happen. And after that, we then need to manage all the details and workflow of that scaling. And kind of what we're doing here is sort of guerrilla SEO warfare. And even just managing details like SEO diaries can just be so crucial when you're sifting back through results and just seeing what did and didn't work. Just that small measure. And if you haven't read about SEO diaries, it's a very, very simple technique, nothing too fancy. We use Trello, Trello.com for SEO diaries here. Someone on the staff is appointed with documenting any test work that we do. So when I check rankings in Microsite Masters first and then in SEMrush second, for reasons I'll go into a bit later, we can then kind of track back and go and have a look at which specific sites or little tests did well, because we're running a lot here all the time, it's super easy just to lose track of those details. So that's it's one of those crucial habits to get into. And just to kind of show, I mean, a lot of what we're doing in SEO traffic hacks is kind of counterintuitive, and I just want to give a concrete example of that in my own business here. I won't talk about it for long, but it could be useful for you. So at the moment, like, I'm an Australian guy, but I live in Sofia in Bulgaria in Eastern Europe, and in our office here, Bulgaria is sort of the Philippines of Europe in a way, in terms of low cost, low tax, and you know, pretty good staff on IT, pretty well trained. So at the moment, I've got about 15 staff. We've got some people operating sort of out of the office a bit, which I don't like that much, but overall it's about 15 staff. And probably by the end of the year, the way that we're going now, we've got 2 more people at least starting next week. We'll be having something like 50 to 70 staff by the year's end. And really the philosophy driving the whole business is research is absolutely crucial, and that feeds into implementation. And from implementation we can then filter out results, you know, looking at clear winners and losers and fine-tuning and tweaking and so on. And from there, scaling it up. Now, you can see in that sort of 4-step chain that each one, each kind of next one in the chain is crucially dependent on the previous one. So, for example, I can't implement anything unless I've actually done some research first. And there'll be no results to filter out unless I've done the implementation. And unless I've done those previous 3 steps, there's nothing, you know, I don't know exactly what to scale, and I could be wasting money on losers, that kind of thing. So even on a smaller scale, even if you're just kind of a one-person SEO guy, that could still be a pretty useful workflow for you to sort of, you know, accelerate success. So my counterintuitive thing here, kind of doing things in the exact opposite to the way that they're quote-unquote supposed to be done. So the way that I used to recruit staff is sort of how all the manuals tell you how to do it, which basically, in a crudely summarized version, is to be cautious when you hire people, ask them tons of questions, interview them several times, have several different people interview them, possibly in different locations, etc., etc. And in fact, I've completely turned that on its head now, and for almost all of the roles in the business, with the exception of a couple of highly specialized ones in web development, coding, stuff like that, basically I don't do any interviews at all, and we have a very much sort of everyone trains everyone else culture in my business. So when someone new arrives, we put them on a 1-week trial, which can turn into a 1-month trial. And during that first week, staff here will teach them and get them running specific jobs. So for example, PR checking, looking up the quality of domains and things like that, kind of all supervised. And very, very quickly, we'll know exactly which of those people that have come in and sort of applied for the job, if they look sort of semi-reasonable, if they look like a, you know, some crazy person off the street, obviously we don't trial them, but they come in, they do, in that week, they do a lot of, you know, a lot of supervised tasks and training and learning, and we kind of assess it at the end of the week, and the staff will just come to me and tell me whether that person is a good fit or not, and on the basis of that they go ahead. So in a way they kind of do self-filtering, and doing that we've already just found some incredible people whose CV, like when I go back to even look at it, didn't indicate any of the great qualities or potential they necessarily have, you know, had to offer. So basically my counterintuitive approach is not to interview at all, and in fact in most cases that might sound a bit rude, I don't even talk at first to new staff. They just come into the system. The girls here will just take them on and go through that training regime that I talked about. And very quickly it will become clear who the kind of winners and losers are, sounding very kind of zero content SEO-ish here. But the self-filtering goes on. So, if a couple of people don't work out last week, more will probably be coming next week. And the other thing is that the existing staff get better at what they do by sort of having to teach it all the time. And we know that teaching is a great way to sharpen your own learning. It's sort of an old axiom in education that's very true. So even just being counterintuitive there and not living in a world of anxiety and suffering about, oh my God, like, am I hiring the right person? What about what they said on question 17 on interview 4? I just completely forget all of that now, and I actually let my staff just take them through that process. And for us now, that's working extremely well, especially from a time point of view for me. So kind of to come back here to Tony Golan's favorite episode of Seinfeld, I believe, it's funny how here, like George Costanza, we're succeeding with the opposite of what we're supposed to do. Empty sites shouldn't be able to rank. Empty PBN posts shouldn't really have any impact, but as we know from actually doing a whole bunch of testing on it, turns out they actually work amazingly well and can make your SEO business just so much more efficient. So I think, just to summarize there, just beware of conditioning. It affects all of us. In SEO, there are all of these truisms that are just repeated over and over and over in all kinds of training, or more like forums. What about what you can and can't do? Or what, quote-unquote experts on the big SEO online journals write about what you can and can't do, but are they actually testing it? Do they have a proper testing regime in place? So, to use another kind of TV reference here, just focus only on the results with this kind of Vulcan, like Star Trek sort of detachment, like these PPC guys who are kind of like machines and they have no attachment whatsoever to any individual ad. We kind of need to be like that with our websites. Okay, so let's jump on to, let me just check if my audio still sounds good. If I can just get a quick show typing in the question box if my audio is still sounding good and not like I'm underwater. Awesome, thank you guys. Okay, so I couldn't actually find a cover online of my original internet marketing business, which is a bit sad, so I had to use one from the same genre here. So I'll keep this walk down memory lane very, very brief, but I want to make a really important point. I think I've mentioned this before, but probably not in quite in this specific detail. So in 1998, I was working as creative director on an advertising marketing agency, and we were responsible for the business for Pepsi in Australia and New Zealand at the time, working out of Sydney, North Sydney office. And at the end of that year, basically Pepsi fired us, because they fire everybody after a little while, but that's completely normal in that sort of business. So I'd actually just done a lot of developmental work overseeing Pepsi's new big Australasian website, which was full of music clips and interviews. It was sort of run like a radio station online, which in 1998 not too many people were doing. So it was actually, it's funny, back then we got quotes like, to build this website, like $700,000, $480,000, just crazy, crazy money. Now for building what, if you could see the version of that website, it now would look kind of quite crude and basic. That was very content rich. So after that, I kind of didn't really want to work for anyone. So I had already sort of been involved in the internet with the Pepsi website, and let me just turn my Thunderbird off so we don't. Yep. Sorry about that. So I'd already been working with the web on Pepsi, and I'd previously done a bit of other stuff, I think, for McDonald's at another agency as well. And so I decided, being a professional writer, I was kind of a copywriter-based creative director there, the market seemed wide open for a book about writing competitions. So I did all this months and months and months of research, kind of like what I did with the Business Ideas book in 2008. Gosh, that was 10 years later. Just made that connection. So I thought this would be something very interesting. It was a very good book. There was a lot of up-to-date material there. There were like big money prizes, and I thought writers everywhere, aspiring writers, amateur writers, pretty professional writers, of which there are actually quite a lot in the world, would just jump at this book. They'd think it was amazing. They'd think it was so, so cool. So I got the book made. It was available as a PDF. I can't remember the exact price that it was. From that book, I branched out into photography competitions and then art and design competitions. And I made some ridiculously absurd financial decisions based on my belief that this would actually succeed amazingly well. I rented this super posh beachfront apartment in Manly in Sydney with wonderful ocean views, and I was there for a year, going bankrupt kind of slowly and quickly. And what happened there is, and I only kind of reflect on this much, much later, what happened was the business did sort of succeed, but at that time, still we're in that age where people were very, very reluctant to buy anything on the web, and they didn't want to give their credit card details, and convincing people to buy things was still quite difficult. I mean, that sounds funny today because we don't care, about Target getting hacked and 30 million credit cards getting stolen, the details. Couldn't care less. It doesn't make any impact on people's buying behavior online. But back then, they were very paranoid about all that. So I think in its best year, this business probably did something like $30,000 Australian, so roughly similar to about $30,000 US, which was miles below my kind of expectations for it. And to me, it was actually a real failure. And even though it took a few years, maybe 2 or 3 years, I kind of gave up on the whole thing, and I just felt completely crushed by it and disillusioned and every kind of entrepreneurial failure cliche emotion you can imagine. And later what I realized was that what I'd done there was I'd allowed myself to get emotionally attached to one project as my only vehicle for success. So if that thing failed, doesn't matter what the thing is, but if that thing failed, I was just crushed, and you sort of take it personally, and your entrepreneurial self-esteem, if I can put it that way, is kind of crushed by it. And stupidly, what I realize now, and it's kind of a very obvious thing to say, is that my loyalty and your kind of entrepreneurial loyalty should be to commercial success and not to any specific project, website, a particular product, service you make. And it should be that, obviously you want to persist and give it everything, but if it's just not going to fly, if it's not going to work, you've just got to walk away and just move on to the next thing. And obviously when you read the history of lots of successful entrepreneurs, they have numerous failures and often bankruptcies in their history, but they bounce back, and luckily I've been able to do that as well. So never again will I kind of allow myself to have that, that deep an attachment to one specific thing. So, if you felt a good question, a good thing to take away, I think, from this webinar is to ask yourself, am I too attached to this particular website that I've been working on for a long time? It hasn't delivered. Maybe I need to rethink it and apply my energy and intellect to a different service or, a whole different way of thinking, because it's just not going to fly, and you can't get that time back later. So, if you can, just be as detached and cold and sort of analytical as you can. So hopefully you can learn from my massive, massive mistakes there. It took me literally years to A, emotionally, and B, financially get over the stupidity of all that, including paying outrageous rents for that wonderful apartment. Okay, moving on back to 2014. Inside SEO Traffic Hacks, we have a member there, Muffins, who may be on the call today, I'm not sure. And Muffins, that's his username there, is now our kind of tool testing guy, and he's just completed work on detailed analysis of using main WP's links manager function. So if I just scroll down here, we can see here, let me just get the old GoToWebinar pen, eh? We can see it. Let's try again. Okay, that's bad. My pen is stuck on. That's going to be pretty difficult to do anything. Let me just see if I, here we are. Okay. So we can see down here, and it's not actually writing, which is no good. Okay, we've got a wonky pen today. So I'll just highlight it here. So we've got using main WP to manage your blog networks here, and Muffins has done these two very detailed tutorials on how you can get the most out of this links manager extension in main WP. And the reason that one is significant is because if you're doing switchbox type SEO, or you just want greater control over how your links can be changed, links manager can almost fit the bill. It can do a lot of things of what you need. It's not perfect. Still ideally needs more development from them, but you can go in and just, Muffins just takes you through all of the, you can see here, it just talks through, all the things to look out for, it's sort of step one, step two, do this and do that. So he's done actually brilliant guides, really, really helpful guides there to using that links manager function. If you're doing much with PBN, something like that can be extremely useful. Okay, so that's Muffin's work, and next he's actually working on that rank quiz translation thing I've been trying to crack for quite some time. The second thing is, you may have already read this, is that I'm getting around to fully updating my complete SEO blueprint here. So the original one, I kind of left it up there for the retro fans. So we've got the old one here, which is up to before April 2014. That's a long time ago. But what I've done here, on the first blueprint, I kind of put the whole thing with all the stages in one big long thread, which is crazy and really difficult to navigate. So what I've done now is broken up each of the steps, starting with monetization research. You can see I'm obviously working on keyword research at the moment, is to really go into as much detail as humanly possible and answer as many of your questions as I can with each stage of that, based on exactly what we're doing right now. And a bit of a spoiler alert here, zero content SEO is huge, absolutely huge in my new SEO blueprint. I don't do a thing without it now because it's just working so well, as you'll see. So that's something else to check out. So that first one there, excuse me, with the Weekend at Bernie's image there is there, and you can check that out now. This is a site I came across during the week because I'm always interested in weird, offbeat kind of niches that aren't the target for sort of every affiliate marketer in the world. And this site here, I'll put a link below the webinar recording, is high-paying affiliate programs. Now, I haven't yet tried any of these, but they sound intriguing. And for instance, there are affiliate programs for drones. Those things that fly around in the sky. There's like yacht hire, private jet charters, super expensive massage chairs. All these kind of, affiliate marketing. The breadth of affiliate marketing is quite amazing when you look into it more. And actually, over on the right here, you can just see tons. Now, obviously, you need to do all of your due diligence and check it out, and check out if there are things like brand, search volume, recurring income programs, things like that. SEO competition, what's that like? But that's a good way into the less obvious affiliate programs. Just a reminder as well. George is actually going to kill me. George is our support manager at Traffic Planet Hosting. He'll hate me putting the email address up there because he wants everything nice and orderly through the ticketing system. Just a reminder for all current SEO Traffic Hacks members that you do get free business plan hosting at Traffic Planet Hosting. All you need to do is go to live help, raise a ticket, and George will set you up with a free account there. And if you haven't already seen the reviews on just how fast that hosting is, even from skeptics inside SEO Traffic Hacks, you can see on the relevant thread, which is here. Let me just come back to the training. So you can see up here we've got this free hosting tab. Hopefully you can see it where we've got these tabs up the top, free hosting here. And you can see all of it here. Actually, just scroll down. Here's a bit of shameless promotion. Not that you need to pay for anything here. Let me just come to the most recent reviews of people who've just transferred over and seeing the difference. So we've got Scott 1122 here. When I first read what others said, I thought it's because it's nice to say good things about Traffic Planet hosting since we're here. But Dan, this really is the fastest host I've tried till now. You can't compare it with $1 hosting, absolutely not. Nothing compares to Traffic Planet hosting in terms of speed and also hopefully ease of use. Like we have a very bespoke admin panel, which I think is kind of better than cPanel in many ways. I know we're all super used to cPanel, but we have our own kind of bespoke admin panel, which has almost all of those functions and more are getting added all the time with the actual hosting service of what your website speed on the web, especially under heavy load. So if you're doing launches and email promotions and things like that, it's not going to affect the performance for a lot of on there at the same time. So just keep that one in mind, but actually don't use that email address. I shouldn't have had that slide, but just raise a ticket there and George will take care of that. Just be mindful, we only do site migrations Monday to Friday. They're free. It doesn't matter how big or how many sites you want moved, but they are all free. So, but it's just a Monday to Friday thing. Okay. Gosh, finally now we're into the main feature of the movie show. So let's look at a whole batch of latest test results, which is I'm sure what you really came for. Though my story about my book in the past was extremely interesting, I think. Okay, so with some of these test results here, what I wanted to do was show you the current rankings for some older tests and also show you the new rankings for brand new tests, so and give as much information here as possible about that. Because I think it's interesting to see how those older success stories have held up since we first ran them. So, where are we at? Zero content SEO subdomains, doing a lot of testing with that at the moment. And here are the parameters here, and this is very much like you would document in an SEO diary, which I really encourage you to do if you're not already, if you're doing any degree of testing. So basically, these subdomains, whether they're in a 5-pack or a 10-pack, and the beauty of a subdomain, if it isn't clear to you, is that you don't need to buy brand new domains for testing. Zero content SEO is all about kind of bulk testing, 5 or 10 sites at a time, identifying the winners that Google naturally likes, the ones that haven't been hit by that sort of random rankings factor, and sort of finding another use for the losers in it, but I'll come to that a bit further on. So basically, with all of these tests here, excuse me, these subdomains were created on exactly the same hosting account with exactly the same IP address created at the same time. They obviously had different names, as you'll see on some of the actual tests that have been run here. So zero content SEO subdomains work extremely well. You can save a lot of money on your testing. You don't need to buy domains. And after you've found which subdomains are ranking, if you want, you can 301 them to an actual proper normal root domain type operation, or you can just keep using them as a subdomain. It's completely up to you. So you can save a lot of money. You know, if you're doing a 5-pack, because I do recommend .coms, that's $50 you could not have to spend. 10-pack, obviously $100. But there's one thing that you can do that will completely screw your zero content SEO tests, and so there's one vital caveat. They do work really well, but I'll come to it shortly. There's something that if you do this thing, it won't work at all. It just kills it, just squashes it. So I'll get to that in a second. So I think I covered this one possibly in last week's webinar, but I just wanted to jump in and show where it was at. And you can see on the left-hand side here, I've kind of put in SEO diary type information. And actually, I've got to suggest to microsite masters that they offer that facility along with archiving in their rank tracking, that you do have kind of a box where you can add more information, which I don't think is there. So here, this is kind of in the emergency training niche, like people who might go and train. It's not quite this, but it's sort of like go and get some kind of ambulance certificate they might pay for and do a course or whatever. So we can see here from this microsite masters screenshot, this was from yesterday, this one was taken. So the job was originally run on April 25th, 50 posts run on that day, spun content in the PBN posts, no other runs whatsoever. This was one of a 5-pack of sites that were tested. 2 of them were complete failures, just proving that random rankings factor. Ironically, even though those PBN sites probably helped other sites in other tests do really well, in this particular case here, just didn't deliver at all. So 3 out of the test 5 test sites, this was the one of the best ones, did well, but the other 2 complete failures. So we've got position 10, so bottom of page 1 for a Qzx900 term. Can I get my highlighter working? Will it actually work? Let's see. It doesn't seem to be putting anything on the screen. Strange. Choose the pen color. It looks all right. Let's try something else. Nope, not going to write for me. Okay, not to worry. So if you can see on the second row there, we've got position 10 for a 6,600 term, position 8 for a 4,400 term, down near the bottom, position 8 for a 320 search term. So not bad at all. I've just rearranged the rankings in a different way here by rankings. So you can see it's got a lot of page 1 rankings, but a lot of those are for long tail, small traffic. But what you're seeing there is, if you recall the webinar where I talked about the importance of good keyword research and varying those anchors a lot so that you can access different pools of keywords. Because normally, just to digress for a very quick moment, if you just go and do a completely normal Google Keyword Planner search, it will hide a lot of really great terms from you. So if you do a search on save marriage, it won't show you terms like couples therapy, relationship counseling, things like that. You have to use kind of more lateral approaches to finding better keywords. And if you've got some of those other groups of keywords in your anchor text, your keywords there, you're going to get some rankings here, and that's why, I think the most I've gotten that I've been able to see through the various ranking tools is something like, at its height, like one page had like 180 page 1 rankings because I'd used a lot of keywords from different groups of very relevant but not directly those actual words. So you can imagine that the phrase couples therapy is very relevant for the save marriage keyword. But if I don't have some couples therapy keywords in my links, Google won't think that that empty page, that empty site, empty subdomain is relevant for couples therapy. I actually have to tell Google to make it relevant for those other terms. And there you can see excuse me, the result of that, just lots and lots of page 1 rankings, and obviously we've got the 4,400 one there. So it does work. This is from the same batch of five tested sites, so all the parameters are the same. We've got position 23, so that's page 3 for a 33,000 search term. Down the bottom, 18 for a 480 search term, 21 for a 720 search term. So there's enough movement there to kind of suggest that further backlinks would be promising with that one. Same group here. This is in a parenting sub-niche. Ranking's not as spectacular, so we've got position 36 for a 1900 search term, and the rest sort of smaller and lower there. Interestingly, from that group of 5, because remember they're all linked by PBN sites of basically the same level of power. They're all PR2 to PR4, somewhere in that range, yet the rankings results are really different. Like with every test I run, almost every test I run, that random rankings factor is just prevalent. It's always there, and that's the beauty of this bulk testing. You're just filtering out those dud sites, and most SEOs or webmasters are just targeting one domain. They get a domain they like, they do the SEO on it, but then find it can't rank, or it's very difficult to rank, and we're sidestepping that whole wasted time. This is an interesting one here. So if you recall from when I did that big group of 10, that the winner, the spectacular winner, it was actually the one that had like 180 page 1 keywords at one stage. I think it's about 155 or 160 now. I didn't want to bore you by going through all those 10 rankings results again, but they're basically about the same. So here I want to sort of confirm it, this subdomain thing. So it was a pretty straightforward test. So what we had was a group, I think it's a 5-pack of this one. Pretty sure it's a 5-pack. We'll know in a minute when I review the screen. 5-pack of subdomains, all created, same hosting account, all hanging off the exact same domain, same IP address. I'm going after a branded coupon code niche term like Macy's coupon codes. It isn't Macy's coupon codes, but it's exactly like that, but just with a different company. So 50 posts, my standard kind of operating procedure, and that's something I need to break apart and test a lot more, and I'm going to talk about that more a little bit later. I've got a slide on that. And these were 50 posts from different PBN sites to each test site. Now this was run quite recently, May 3rd, so we're talking about 6 days ago this test was run. And the results for it so far, so these are the 5 sites here, and you can see how I've actually, the subdomains I've created here. So I've got discounts.blahblahblah.com, deals.blahblahblah.com, all subdomains just hanging off the same root domain there. And we can see they all have the same level of PBN posts, roughly the same power, and look at the difference here. Like the bottom one couldn't register for any rankings whatsoever, but the top one was able to get up to page 1, position 7. Microsite Masters will always show me the highest ranking there, regardless of what the search volume is for it. So in actual fact, it had these rankings were there a couple of days ago. They have only moved just fractionally in the last couple of days. So even, so it was run on the 3rd, so even like 4 days after that, we were getting very good rankings here. So if we dig further into the winner, I'll just say, I'll actually wait till I get to the SEMrush screen, so I'll just hold off on that. So this is the one of the best performers. 2 of them from there, you saw good performers. So we've got position 8 for a 27,000 search term, position 8 for 22,000, position 9 for 27,000, position 10 for 33,000 search terms. So clear winner in 4 days. But in fact, I'm ranking for a lot more terms than that. And the reason I don't put like millions of search terms into Microsite Masters is because it's a quota-based system, and because I'm running so many tests, I can't put in hundreds of keywords to check for each page that I run. It would just be, crazy expensive and unnecessary. So what I do is if I see movement here, I can then go over to SEMrush, and there's a bit of a 2 to 3 day lag between what I'll see here and what I'll see in SEMrush, as you'll see in a minute. But SEMrush, which isn't perfect, but it's still pretty good, is then going to show me what other terms I'm ranking for, which I hadn't selected here because I was kind of saving money and trying to spread my quota around a lot of test sites. Okay, so before I get to SEMrush, basically same performance here on the second site. So I've got these 2 now that I can build out as winners, and the others I can redirect to them or, not use them, up to me. So This is from that first site that we saw there, the coupon code one, and we can see that we're actually ranking. SEMrush gives you rankings in the top 2 pages, so it's got 138 top 20 positions. And according to SEMrush, if I were to go and buy that traffic, you can see under the live update box, I can't really highlight it here, but hopefully you can see where my mouse is. It's, if I wanted to buy that with AdWords, it cost me $10,234. And you can see here how quickly this site just took off. So 6th of May, remember the job was run on the 3rd of May, and they didn't really pick up any details before then. On 6th of May, they picked up some keywords, and then on the 7th of May, it was already over 100 keywords. You know, you can see the breakdown there of positions 1 to 5 and so on. Now, CPC isn't that high, but potentially, you know, very, very monetizable, this one here. But the point I kind of want to show here again is not just, wow, look at these fast rankings, but the fact that we're always working against that random rankings factor. So we can't be disappointed with the failures, because all we're doing is just filtering out the losers, finding the winners, building those out, and scaling some more, which I think is probably about as efficient, you know, as you can get when it comes to ranking, you know, and building business there. Okay, enough on the subdomains there, but I do want to come back to one important caveat there a little bit later, so I'll keep that as a cliffhanger. So something I had talked about previously was PR0 PBNs. Now, if you're new to this conversation, what am I talking about here? Well, a typical private blog network, PBN, or could be, excuse me, could be a public blog network, is more often than not always, but more often than not, is built around PageRank. So even though Google hardly ever updates it, it's still one of the main measures. A lot of guys are moving on to, you know, domain authority and page authority on Moz, and Majestic metrics and things like that. So one of the problems when you're trying to actually acquire sites for a PBN for yourself or for clients is just actually supply, just getting them. And even those of you who dealt with Thomas already have found he's a bit of a frustrating character, and believe me, nobody's more frustrated with him than I am. Like, he's slow, very slow to respond to emails, he doesn't update his lists very often, etc., etc. So I've been looking around for kind of good alternatives to that, and this PR0 PBN was an idea that I wanted to test. So instead of actually buying sites, domains that have PageRank, why don't we use that kind of CNN type hack where we check out high authority sites and look for links from them to domains that no longer have an owner. So if you've previously seen how I've used Screaming Frog and Xenu to kind of scan big sites like CNN, or little tiny bits of those big sites, because it's quite a time-consuming job as well. But looking for domains that have links from there, do follow links from pages that have good PR, but they're available because no one owns them anymore, and whoever did own them long since sort of lost interest in them. But one of the funny things about these types of domains is when they're de-indexed by Google, and there's good de-indexing and bad de-indexing, and good de-indexing is just when a site drops out of Google's index because it's not physically being used, so it actually has no search volume, there's literally nothing on the page. But the thing is, even though you can't get a PageRank measure from it, you can guess, but that can be wildly inaccurate. You can still see metrics from it in Majestic and in Ahrefs, and also Open Site Explorer, the Moz tool, so you can get very good readings there. Now, they're open to manipulation as well, so you still have to do some due diligence, but this is a completely different way of putting together your PBN, which technically will show as PR0, but actually will have value because it has links, and in my experience, as soon as you start posting to them, they just get indexed very, very quickly, almost instantly. They just get picked up straight away and put back in the Google index. So Google's aware of what's going on with them. The test parameters here were that I bought 25.eu de-index domains that had quite good majestic metrics in terms of citation flow and trust flow. And I bought 25.coms as well to try it out, because I've always sort of been a bit jinxed with .eu domains. They've never worked that well for me. And just very quickly, the difference on majestic citation flow is sort of the number of sites that link to a domain, regardless of their quality, and trust flow is about the quality of those links, regardless of how few it is. So what I'll do, today's Friday, but early next week, I'll put up all of the site metrics for the sites that I've used for this PR0 PBN test as well. So I had about 50 sites to work with, and I started running some tests on that, so I want to sort of give that information, those test results here. Just so you know, the citation flow and trust flow on the 50 sites that I bought, they were sort of in the high teens, like 15 to 20 on average across that .com and .eu. From the people I talk to, and one guy in particular who works a lot in this area, trust flow is a lot better when you combine it with referring number of domains, and he finds it very easy to manipulate trust flow with a site-wide link on a low PR site. So if you're using citation flow and trust flow as your metrics, the best thing is to look for something like at least 10 referring domains, different ones, and not site-wide links, which are a classic kind of trust flow manipulator. So look at trust flow and look at referring domains, according to this guy who works a lot in this area. And in terms of the test parameters, it was all spun content posts. These were not empty PBN posts. They did have content in them as well. So what were the results? Okay, so here, this was a new page to an existing site, a site that's about 4 months old, I think, but doing the rest of the site is doing well, no question about it. It's growing to quite a large site, this one. It's in the tickets niche. And from this PR0 PBN run, this new page, currently we can see we're in 11th position for an 8,100 term. We're in 11th position for a 3,600. Page 1, bottom of page 1 for a couple of smaller terms, and another one down there, 8,100 search term. We're in position 12, which is pretty promising from a network that has 0 PR, and it's just been brought back to life. Did we go on there? No, okay. They all look alike after a while. So this was another new page on this existing site here for a different event, different artists. The highlight here is position 11 for an 18,000 a month search term, and a couple of other OK ones there, 15 for 2,400, so that's pretty promising from that network. Another new page here, position 5 for 6,600 term, position 8 for 1,900, and down the bottom, position 18 on page 2 for 135,000 a month search term, which is a pretty amazing result. And remember, those domains cost me $10 each to buy because they were just available. Nobody owned them. They were just available for registration. So that was quite a bargain and a very, very good result there. A different new page on that existing site, not as spectacular, but I can see promising movement there. Position 24 on page 3 for a 5,400 search term. These are all highly monetized, by the way. They're not just they're not empty pages. They're all geared up with affiliate links and stuff. Position 80 for an 823,000 search term. That's pretty disappointing. Poor performance. I'm joking. Here's another test from this PR0 PBN. So this was just a little test, 3 different sites, 3 different niches. and the best performer in the jewelry niche was this position 17 here, and I can see enough there to be encouraged and go after that with more links. Nothing's truly spectacular here, sort of page 2, page 3, page 4, but promising enough to work with and add more SEO. So here, this is a not a subdomain test. These are all brand new domains. So this is in the UK tickets niche, because with Ticket Network you can actually sell UK tickets even with their widget. But the main drawback is that all of the currency amounts are in dollars. So and I've already talked to Brian Flanagan from Ticket Network about this, and they don't have a way of making their widget work in pounds. So you've got to try to sell to people in the UK in dollars. So probably going to be a stumbling block, and we'll have to go through the whole painful affiliate window process as well. But so here basically this is a 5-pack, completely empty sites. They're just set up with WordPress. There's no mono-silo. They just have a title page set as the home page, not using posts, but the page. Obviously, I've had to hide the actual domain names here, but they're all kind of tickety related. And you can see 4 out of the 5 actually did really well, but the bottom one comparatively has done quite poorly, yet even though, again, it's the same power of links going there. So that job was run around April 30, and so you can see in, I guess, what are we talking, 9 days, but it's had those for a few days, so like in a week. Pretty good results there. In terms of search volume, we can see here we're on position page 2 for a 1,000 a month search term, bottom of page 2 for 3,600 there. So not bad. It's encouraging. The other good one, very similar results, were at the bottom of page 2 for 14,800 a month search term, and middle of page 3 for 4,400. That to me looks promising and probably worth building out both of those two. So those are kind of some of the newer test results there. I also just wanted to come back quickly and do just a rankings check on an older site before going on. This was a 10-pack. This is in the tickets niche in the US, new domains, and it was run on April 14th. So it's almost a month, sort of 3 weeks-ish we're coming up on. So across the 10 sites, look at how much this random rankings factor is impacting here. So we've got on page 2 for the first 3 sites, then we get moved to page 3 as the best result, and a lot of this can depend on search volume as well. But these bottom 4, absolutely nothing at all for those terms. So you kind of see that factor working there. So this is the highest, the best performer. Actually, yesterday's, that previous screenshot, this one was from yesterday, and this is from today on that individual site. So the winner has actually moved up to the very bottom of page 10 for a 22,000 a month search term. And actually, in the last few days, we have actually added content to that and started building that site out. I don't think that's necessarily has a lot to do with that, like 1 to 2 position move. You can see it's moved up 2 spots. Others have moved up as well. A couple have moved up there. So, in that short period of time, that's a very, very good result for that site. This is the SEM Rush ranking. In fact, it's saying that we've got 69 rankings. And you can see here, remember, I think it started April 14th. You can just see the number of keywords on this organic keywords chart just building up there to a nice level. And the search engine traffic price here is a lot lower because we're kind of stuck on page 2. I think we need some serious page 1 rankings in order for that to go up higher. This is the second best one, so we can see we've got a good position 16 there on a 22,000 search term. You're probably starting to go snowblind from looking at so many results. So there's some of the good ones, but what about the ugly ones? What about the catastrophic failures? You don't necessarily get that many internet marketers or SEO guys talking about the ones that were just a complete bust. So here's one that was. So these were actually a subdomain test as well. So these were only done with HTML pages and not with WordPress. All of the previous results that I've shown you are all with WordPress. In this particular test, the configuration was the file name was actually the main keyword, the title of the page was the main keyword, and on the page it was bolded and H1 for the main keyword. Probably all adds up to over-optimization. So we had all of those things. 50 posts run at each on May 6th, then you could say that's too soon, but not seeing any rankings at all so far, and I'll show you just how severe the problem is. And I need to rerun this test, at least a few variations of it with much less, ironically kind of even less content on the page. And it's hard to see WordPress having that big an effect, but let me just actually go into the picture here, which I've grabbed from Microsite Masters. You can see on this particular test, on these 5 sites tracking 255 keywords, there's not a single ranking in the top 100 for any of those. And you can imagine some of those are very, very small search volume, and it's not a single ranking showing up anywhere. But the other thing to come out, the other failure, which I kind of mentioned before, that I want to go into in much more detail now quite quickly because we're already at an hour. Here's the problem when you're using PBNs and zero content SEO, this thing that we have also found. I'm yet to rule out HTML. You know, I think we basically screwed up that test through over-optimization. We need to run it again. But what is very clear from my own other tests here, where we're not seeing any ranking results whatsoever, and even guys are reporting in the training in SEO traffic hacks, if you have the same PBN sites, exactly the same ones, linking to the exact same zero content SEO sites, you're going to get no rankings result or extremely poor performance. So let's say you've got the same 50 PBN sites all linking to the exact same of 5 zero content SEO sites. It's going to kill the rankings and it just won't work, which is bad news because it means it's kind of a bit more resource intensive. So just to clarify how that looks going forward. Your PBN links to ZCS test sites in the same test batch should not be from the exact same PBN sites. So here's what your ideal configuration is really going to look like. Depending on the size of your blog network that you have access to, however you're dividing it up. If you're doing 50 posts to each test site, you can only use a different group of 50 PBN sites linking to a separate test domain. Don't mix them up and don't have them all kind of, if you've only got 50, don't just keep reusing that 50 for each of these sites, because it looks like that will be a rankings destroyer and it just won't work. Now, even though I haven't tested it down at this low level, let's say you only have a 50 site PBN, which is still, quite resource heavy to put together. There's no denying that. What I would do is actually split it up into 10s, and I would just push 10 links to each of your 5 ZCS test sites. Now that's theory at the moment, not proven. But if you already have the PBN, and remember you can use subdomains for this, so you don't have to spend. It's just a bit of time on the actual, running the posts and spinning content and stuff. But you might, even with 10, maybe you're going to see enough movement on 1 or 2 of them to go, yep, this is the one that I want to commit more to, and then kind of pursue it from there. But it looks like at the moment, if you don't configure it this way, you're not going to have success with it. So you do need to have, all the test results I've shown you above, like in every case, pretty sure, I think it's every single one, it was a different group of PBN sites, 50 PBN sites linking to a domain in each of those five sites in the test, if that makes sense. So you have to split them up. Okay, conclusions. Let's see. HTML sites may not be good test vehicles, but it could be that we just buggered that one up. So let's hold off on the jury's still out on that one. Subdomains are absolutely perfect to save on testing, and at the end you can 301 the winners or just keep it as is. The caveat on that is you can't use the same PBN sites to link to all of them in the same test. So the option there is to break your PBN into smaller subgroups to avoid using those sites to the same test sites. And just to come full circle back to the theme at the beginning, be ruthless and detached about your websites. Your loyalty is to commercial success, like my loyalty was to that bloody book back in 1998, 99, 2000, which was entrepreneurial suicide, emotionally, financially, any way you can think. Your loyalty is to commercial success, hopefully within ethical boundaries, but your loyalty is to commercial success, not to any single website, product, ranking, project, service, or whatever. And having that clarity and detachment, I think, will actually make you a lot more successful. I'm not saying it's necessarily that easy, because we do have our darlings and our favorites, but I think you can be a lot more successful if you have that sort of detached ruthlessness about it. The great news from this webinar is, as I think you've seen above, is that PR0 PBNs do work. Still working on a way to get them in a more bulk, access them in a more bulk format, still trying to get that going. But even without that and some time-consuming legwork, you can still find them out there. So they do work for ranking. So it's another way in, and you're not going to be stuck at domain auctions or waiting for Thomas to answer his bloody emails. Okay, guys. So that brings me to the end of all of the fun stuff today, and now let's get down to the grueling hard talk style questions. Let's see. Whoa. Okay. Let's start from the top, eh? Quite a few here. I really am on hard talk. Josh says, that sounds familiar. I know this lesson much too well. I think that's the lesson I was just talking about there. Chris has asked, when choosing anchors using the top 1 or 2 positions fed into the Google Keyword Planner, what is the process that you use? Do you export into Excel? Always I do that. Sort by traffic and cherry pick keywords that are relevant to your main keyword, or do you use the exact list that Google Keyword Planner gives you sorted by relevance? It's sort of mashing together several lists from several different searches and then kind of using common sense to go through and filter it out, because if I've only got 50 posts, I've got to cover several groups, and I'll go into this in a lot more detail in my keyword research guide, Chris. Hopefully that will clear up that question. Unfortunately, Carl, we can't pause while you go to the toilet. I'm sorry. Tim has asked, what CF and TF were you buying on your domains? I think I've covered that. They're in the teens there, Tim, so like 15 to 20 for both. Francis has asked, has said, this is great stuff, Terry, thank you. For those that have a small PBN, do you think that the ZCS strategy could work with a mixture of high PA, Web 2.0 network, and some PBN links? Great question, and Richard at the moment is testing out some, I forget the name, but some Tumblr unused blog sifting software. So you find sort of Tumblr blogs with PR. So I said to him today, actually, when we had our quick meeting just before this webinar, that we want to, I know they're all on Tumblr, which is a bit of a problem, but let's just try see if just a little, I think we've got about 20 PR Tumblr sites. Let's just see if we can rank a new site for, for a relatively easy term and see if that can work. So in theory, yes, Francis, but hopefully that Tumblr test we do, and if we can actually get some other Web 2.0 PR sites in there as well, that could well be a good option. Chad has asked, what would be the difference when you link to 5 of your own money sites with a 50 site? Probably the thing is with your 5 money sites, they might be spread around and they could be in different niches, Chad. I think that's part of the difference. So I know we're getting rankings here with these subdomains all hosted in the same place, but I imagine your 5 sites are kind of in different niches as well. So that could be a big part of it, and that's one of the permutations that we need to look at. Brian has asked, what does 10, 25, 50 represent in the PBN? That's how many PBN blogs you would use, depending on the size of your blog network, to go to each separate test kind of money site, Brian. So let's say if your blog network only had 50 sites, you would split it up into 10 posts from 10 different blogs for each of your test sites. Okay, Chad has come back and clarified and written a small novel here. I'm joking, Chad. He can rank 5 different money sites, all using them on all the same PBN sites, so it would seem that conclusion is flawed. Possibly, but we've seen it here on several tests that we just had the same 50 PBN sites, exactly the same 50, going to those same test-ons, and we just couldn't get them to rank, just would not move. So let's see what further testing reveals. Tony has chipped in. Can you have the different PBNs on the same hosting infrastructure, meaning put up 5 domains on each IP and use a different set for each? I mean, the 50, like for a lot of these here, Tony, they're all spread out kind of everywhere, so they're as diverse as possible. So that's another thing to look at, isn't it? Like the hosting configuration as well. So possibly, but the results we were getting there were by having highly varied hosting as well. Will has asked, would a subdomain on a PBN site count as a different PBN site? Good question. We haven't done an isolation test to really determine that. Will goes on, would there be any juice passed from the main domain to the subdomain for passing to the ZCS site? Possibly, but obviously you need to link. A better way to do it is link the main domain to the subdomain, and I have talked about kind of double dipping on a blog network to do that. It's a maybe on that one, Will, is the best answer I can give on that one. Okay, Tony has said, I have some sites from the same PBN ranking 2 and 3 for the same keyword search. Interesting. Maybe we need to do more tests, and maybe there's that random rankings factor as well. Chad has asked, do I know of anyone who sells PR0 sites? At the moment I don't, but I'm trying to negotiate. Well, I do know someone who isn't sure about selling them, but I'm trying to get them to sell them. So I'm using all my hostage negotiation skills on that one, Chad. Matt has asked, have I tested ZCS subdomains on Google manual penalized sites? I haven't, but that's an interesting twist, and actually I'll pass that one on to Richard and we'll set that up for next week. Matt, I love that idea. Very good. Paul has asked, and by the way, Matt, if you know, I forget because there are 90,000 things flying around in my brain on any normal moment, actually, if you can email me at support@terrykyle.net, just put that suggestion in and I'll forward it on to Richard. It's a great idea. Paul has asked, when I'm testing a 5-pack of domains for Google's random rankings factor and doing a run of 50 posts on 5 separate PBNs, yep, are you using the same set of link anchors for each PBN run? Great question. I am. I'm replicating exactly the same anchors across all 5. And I think that's part also why you saw where I had a couple of sites at the top of tests, they were ranking for exactly the same terms, exactly the same there. Abdul has asked, when will the replay be up? Probably about 15 to 20 minutes after the end of this webinar. Once GoToWebinar's finished processing. Glad to help, Francis. Chat has said different niches would make sense. Good hypothesis. I'll test that as well. Please share those results, Chad. Love to hear what you find there. Brian has asked, where can I find your best training for putting together an ideal PBN structure? I'm sorry, Brian, I don't have that at all. I'm joking. Let me just show you here on the screen. If I come back, if you see my mouse is here on the top, blog network building on the top here. If you just click on that, that will take you down to all of this area. In fact, a lot of the advanced section, which I know sort of gets forgotten because it's down the bottom there, is all on that blog network building there. Doesn't have anything on PR0 PBNs just yet, because that's quite a new thing, but getting there. Matt has also asked, I hope you've got a high quality question, Matt, equal to your first one. For the CNN hack, we don't really need to concentrate on PR. You kind of can't, because on those de-indexed expired domains, you can't get a PR reading from Google, but you can get citation flow, trust flow, and all the other guys. You can also get domain authority, page authority from Moz, Open Site Explorer. Everything else you can get it from Ahrefs. You can get all their metrics, but you can't get PageRank, so you have to use those other measures. Okay. Will has also fired in, so to cut the costs of posting to each zero-content SEO site from a separate PBN, we could potentially create 5 subdomains on each PBN site, which would give us 6 different PBNs. Possible test suggestion? Absolutely. In fact, also, Will, can you please email that suggestion to me, if you can, straight after this webinar, just to support@terrykyle.net, so I can forward it on to Richard. You know, lots of great ideas for tests here. Okay. Chad has chimed in with, once again, amazing content. I don't know if I got best webinar ever, but there was some really, really good stuff in there, and I hope you guys are using zero-content SEO as well. Chad says, we rip you off every month. I'm sure that's done in the nicest way, Chad. Thank you for coming today to this webinar. I will get the recording up as soon as I can, and I'll add the resource links a bit later, but the recording will be up nonetheless straight away. I hope you got a lot out of it, and you know, there were some great test ideas, and please email in if you've got other little variations, because we do have the machinery here to do that testing. That's part of the beauty of SEO traffic hacks, in my opinion, so please email them over to me, and as much as humanly possible, we'll factor them in and start running tests on them. So thank you, Brian, I appreciate that. So thanks for coming today, and see you on the next webinar.